Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm excited to have you on today's edition of Conscious Creation. I have a guest here I'm really eager to introduce to you. This is around health. So if you have any interest on how to use conscious creation, how do you consciously create better health for yourself, you're going to definitely want to stick around for today's episode. So my guest today is Dr. William Plow, who is my personal doctor, and he also works with other family members. And so I was really excited when he said yes to being on an interview because I'm really eager to hear how he applies conscious creation in his own life and in his practice with his patients. So Dr. Plow, let's go ahead and have you say hello to people. And I have a question for you to start out with, which is for you, what is conscious creation?
Well, hello, everybody. I'm honored to be here. Conscious creation for me is the act of envisioning something and then understanding the steps that you need to take to go about manifesting and making it a reality, and then doing that. So you have an idea in your head, you spend time thinking about the idea, adding in the details, making it as clear as possible. You talk about it with the people who are close to you. And then you start to lay out plans, steps that you need to take in order to make it a reality. So, I mean, a great example of conscious creation might be an architect who puts together plans for a building and then works with the contractors and sees it become a reality.
I love that example. Yeah, it's funny because one of the things I tell people is, we're creating all the time. The question is whether we're creating consciously or not. And there are people who are very, we would say, unconsciously competent at creating, and an architect is a perfect example. He's like, yeah, I can see an image of a building in my mind. I know the steps it takes to bring the building to life, and voila, now it exists in physical reality. Right. Came from an idea to a physical thing, right? And we see it in our world all the time. Question is, how do we do that for ourselves? And today's topic is, how do we do that for our health, which is a fascinating angle in which we can look at conscious creation. So the first thing I wanted to ask you was, is it something, first of all, kind of just share with people, what is it that you specifically do? And then how do you see conscious creation applying to what you do to help heal people?
So what I do specifically, I'm an Oregon licensed chiropractor. So I provide services within the legal scope of my license in Oregon. And I primarily rely on a manual therapy method that was developed by an osteopath in France named Jean-Pierre Barral. And his method is called Visceral Manipulation, which literally means to manipulate the internal organs. And I had about a 10-year career as a massage therapist in Colorado before moving to Oregon and becoming a chiropractor. And I've been a licensed chiropractor in Oregon for 12 years. So I've been doing what I do for about 25 years, and I've studied and practiced many different methods and modalities of working with the body with my hands. And when I was exposed to Barral's work, I found that to be a really good fit for me. And the foundational principle that it's based on is the idea that the job of the musculoskeletal system, the muscles, the joints, and the bones, its most important role is to protect the vital internal organs, right? Like the stomach and the intestines and the heart, but also like the big arteries and veins and nerve bundles and things that move through the inside of the body. So that's why I have my friends here demonstrating that his job is to protect this guy, right? So when I learned how to work with those vital tissues, those internal tissues, with a little bit lighter, more delicate and precise kind of touch, I found that I started getting much better results in the chronic cases. Because, for example, if you've got a shoulder problem, and the shoulder problem doesn't seem to be getting better when people work on your shoulder muscles and they work on the shoulder joint, then we need to look deeper. What is that vital structure that the shoulder is protecting, and how do we address that? So that's a little bit about me, my practice, my modality. But I am, as an Oregon licensed chiropractor, I'm considered a physician. So I think like a physician as well. So I want to learn about a person. I want to learn about all the different factors that influence their health, not just the structure and the mechanics of the body and tissue tension and restrictions and loss of mobility. It has to go beyond that. I have to look at what's going on with them in terms of their body's chemistry, right? Are they getting the proper nutrition? Are they struggling with overloads of environmental toxins? Or do they have a good relationship with the medications? Like, does their physiology have a good relationship with the medications that they're taking? What about the mental and emotional side of things? Because all these things impact our health. So I think outside the box as much as I can. And I really like the topic of conscious creation. It makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that without even, using those terms together, without calling it conscious creation, I feel like I've been practicing that in my work with my patients all along.
Very good. So as far as the power of the mind, a lot of times when I think of conscious creation, I'm thinking of the mind, the power of the mind to heal the body, or the connection of the mind to the body, and how those two are interrelated. I know a lot of times in Western medicine, those two are not necessarily connected together. So as I grew up in Western medicine, I went to the doctor if I had a cold, and they'd say, get lots of rest, which means your body can heal itself, right? Drink lots of fluids. If it gets too bad, you can take something to help kind of dry your sinuses up, and over-the-counter medication. If it got more severe, they might prescribe something. But typically there wasn't a go home and think about how your body is going to get healthy sort of conversation. That never came into any of the conversations with any of my particular doctors. So when I started to learn about conscious creation, how we have the power of our thoughts, our thinking plays a vital role in our healing, that became a very fascinating topic. So can you share a little bit about your experience with that?
Sure. I think the power of our thought processes has a huge impact on our health in general and on our quality of life. Everything it's not the things that occur in our life that give us meaning. It's how we feel about them that give them meaning, right? It's our perception, and everything that we perceive is kind of what we take in through our senses is filtered through our expectations and our biases and our past traumas, and how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about others. So it starts with making that process conscious, right? I am a big believer in mindfulness meditation. And what does mindfulness even mean? I think the best definition of mindfulness I saw on a poster on the staff room door at Oregon School of Massage. It said mindfulness in its simplest meaning is just paying attention on purpose to the moment. So I think mindfulness is a very powerful tool, but because it helps us begin to separate our consciousness a little bit from all of the thinking that happens reflexively, right? We develop patterns of thinking as survival mechanisms, and it starts when we're very, very young, right? And a certain thought will trigger a certain emotional response. And a lot of times this happens below the level of consciousness. We're thinking about something and we're having emotional feelings about that. We may not really even be paying attention to that very much. So I like to train people on how to start to separate the consciousness a little bit from the mind. And the simplest way to start really is with the breath. So I invite people to find a comfortable place, sit down and become still, and close their eyes or not. It's usually easier with the eyes closed, and just start to breathe and just keep focusing your attention, your consciousness on the breath. And you will notice within a second or two that your mind starts to wander and you start to think about stuff. And you become aware. As soon as you become aware that you're thinking about something, you just kind of say to yourself, okay, that's a thought. I'm just going to let go of that thought. I'm going to return my attention to my breath. And you keep doing that over and over and over and over, as long as you sit there. Maybe it's only for 5 minutes, maybe it's for half an hour or longer, but you just over and over, you keep returning your consciousness to the breath. And with practice, you start to become aware that there's a bit of space between the consciousness and the mind, what's going on with the mind underneath. And you develop the ability to kind of observe the mind without getting emotionally involved in it, right? And this is really powerful for the process of conscious creation, because you can start to notice when your thinking is working counterproductively to what your stated goals are, right? So if you want to create a certain life for yourself, you want to be more healthy, you want to be able to get down on the ground and play with your kids or your grandkids, and you haven't been able to do that because of, pain, then you need to start developing patterns of thinking that support decisions that will, reduce your inflammation and improve your flexibility and improves your strength and stability. And so you can do the things, you can carry out the behaviors that are necessary to move you step by step towards the vision that you're creating, right? And you can interrupt the thoughts and the sort of habituated patterns of thinking and emotional response that sabotage you, right? So for example, I know that I need to do my stretching and I need to do my squats to strengthen my low back and my quads so that I can get up and down off the floor easier, so I can spend more quality time playing with my grandkids, right? And then I find myself wanting to just plop down on the couch and eat a piece of cake and just relax. And if I'm practicing mindfulness, I can kind of step back and I can say, what is this thought that says, let me just plop down on the couch? What's behind it? What's the emotion behind it? And we can become aware of that. And that gives us an opportunity to change it in the moment. Say, okay, well, that's interesting. But you know what? I'm going to think something different today. I'm going to think that I'm going to do my exercises and my stretches first. So it helps, the mindfulness helps us create new patterns of behavior that allow us to actually take the steps we need to take in order to take our vision and make it a reality. And that's conscious creation. And the other part of it that I think is important is, who was it? I guess it's Sheryl Crow said, it's not having what you want, it's wanting what you have, right? I don't know, I'm paraphrasing. I didn't quite quote that right. But it's also about creating realistic expectations for ourselves, right? If we can create expectations that, we can create a vision that's something that's actually attainable, and then we feel that much more empowered and that much more, in control of our lives, like we're enjoying our lives. We have the quality of life that we want. And that's an important part of it as well.
Yes, and also, I think what's interesting about conscious creation is seeing that you already have it.
Yeah.
So if you want good health, one of the things is that you cannot have what you believe you do not have, right? So the act of wanting something, it's a little bit of a conundrum, because the act of wanting something or desiring something means that you don't have it currently.
Right.
And what's tricky about law of attraction is you actually have to start to see in the ways that you have it, right?
Right.
To perceive it.
Right. You have to create the vision, and in the vision, you have to have the things that you want, and you have to start thinking that way. Yeah.
And the other thing that's interesting too that I found in conscious creation is it's not only the thought, you have to really viscerally connect to the feelings, maybe even the smells, maybe the touching, just experiencing it as if it is real in your life. So that it like moves from kind of just an intellectual idea into something that you're actually experiencing within the vision that you have.
Right. Yeah. So that's important, is adding in all those details, all the different sensory components. And I think the other thing that's really important is making a habit of revisiting it, thinking about it on a daily basis, talking about it with people in your life who are important to you, describing your vision to them, writing it down, right? Revisiting it a couple times a week and revising it. It's like the architect can have a brilliant idea for a building, but it's never going to be a reality if they don't sit down and draw out the plans. And then they need to go and find a contractor has the resources to do the work and build that relationship. So it starts with a vision, but then we have to do all the things required to make it material. We have to think about it. We have to talk about it. We have to draw it. We have to write about it. We have to think about all the different sensory aspects. And we have to keep doing that really regularly in order for it to start to manifest, right? It can start as a beautiful idea, but it's like planting a seed. If we don't water it, it's not going to grow. You have to water it every day.
Yeah, great point. So with the body and the healing, can you share an example of someone where you help them use their mind to heal their body in addition to the work that you do?
Yeah, there's a case that comes to mind. This is an individual in their 70s, and they had suffered a number of concussions, and because of their brain injuries, they had lost quite a bit of the flexibility of thinking. I think that to a certain degree that happens as we age, regardless. But this person's thinking became quite rigid, and they were kind of constrained to a tight little box. And anything that was new or outside of their normal daily routine became a huge stressor for them. So what I had to do was I started by teaching them how to do mindfulness practice, right? You just sit down quietly, you close your eyes, and you just pay attention to your breath. And the person came back and they were like, well, I tried to do that, but I couldn't because my mind kept wandering. And I'm like, that's it. That's the process. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Your mind is supposed to wander. That's what minds do. That's what they're good at. Let the mind do that, but bring your attention, your consciousness back to your breath. And just keep doing that again and again and again. And through that mindfulness practice, this person was eventually able to start to get out into the community and do more of the different things that I was recommending, like get involved in a Tai Chi class. We started introducing more of the nutritional supplements that their body really needed. And they started developing the flexibility of thinking that allowed them to create new daily routines. The person still has a very carefully regimented schedule of when they take their supplements and when they take their medications and when they eat and how much they eat. So they still need to operate inside a box. And I think that is a downstream effect of the multiple brain injuries that they've suffered. But they are enjoying their life more now. Their body is feeling better, and they're more active in their community and feeling more like they're getting what they want out of their life. So that's the case that comes to example.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned earlier when you and I were just talking that like even just taking the supplements was a challenge for her. Just getting her to do little changes like that was a struggle, right? It was, yeah. Just beginning with the first supplement was a challenge. So we just had to add little baby steps. And I had to, had many conversations with this individual, encouraging them. They had to be well timed, right? When the person was feeling good and was in a good mood and receptive, then I'd be like, okay, we're going to try something new. I want you to take this, about a half an hour before bed every night. And they'd get really upset and stressed out about it. And I'd be like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Just try it. And then the new habit would develop from that. Yeah. But it took, the planting of seeds and then the careful watering, regular revisiting. Yes. And what a blessing to have you holding her hand through that process. We don't always have somebody there holding her hand, right?
Well, it was important to me, I built a relationship with this person. They had a very specific need and they needed a little bit more attention. And I didn't want to just be added to the list of other medical practitioners who had failed the right person. So, I went above and beyond because I felt like that was what was needed. And I wouldn't have felt right about myself as a person or as a healthcare provider if I didn't take the time to try to meet that need.
That's great. And as a result, she's, like you said, living a much happier life.
Yeah. She's
out and about much more and not so much locked into her box, right?
Yeah. And she sends other people to come see me now.
Guess that is just, how it works, right?
It is. It is.
That's great. The more you give, the more you receive. That's also part of the
Yeah,
law of attraction, right?
it is.
So
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And there's something that you talked about too, which is the baby steps. Sometimes we're taking lots of incremental baby steps towards what we want. And
Right.
I think people dismiss the importance of just continual progress. It doesn't have to be big progress,
Right.
right? It can be
Right.
incremental.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a couple things to say about that. I was meeting with a friend recently, and he talked about, you've got this huge elephant that, I was talking about the certain things that I need to get done in my practice and in my work. And he's like, you've got this huge elephant. There's only one way to eat an elephant, and that is one bite at a time, right? You need to break when you have a goal that's like seems overwhelming, you have to break it down into little steps and just think about those steps. Don't worry about like, we'll just take this first little piece and we won't worry about the whole rest of it. We're just going to focus on this piece. It's an attainable, realistic goal, and we get it done, and then we get that dopamine hit, right? Dopamine is released in the brain, and it gives us that sense of accomplishment and feeling of reward. Like, I feel good about myself because I got this done. And that's just, and you can set it up so that each step along the way, right? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And at any point along that journey, the only thing you have in front of you is the next step, right? And if you create each little step is your goal, is part of your vision, and you see that as an accomplishment, and you feel that reward. That's so important. And so break it into little pieces that are doable. I block out 15-minute blocks on my calendar. I say, don't schedule patients during this 15 minutes because I need this time to do this task. And it's only a tiny little sliver of the bigger picture that needs to be done. But I feel a sense of accomplishment because I did that, right?
Yes.
I've got, a list of like 45 people who I need to call or email and follow up with. And if I sit down and I get 2 or 3 of them done, then I feel a sense of accomplishment. I get that dopamine hit, and I feel like I'm living the life of my dreams. And I go home and I'm happier, I'm in a better mood. And I come to work the next day, feeling fired up and ready to go, right? Because I have consciously created this vision of success. I have created for myself, and I plant and I sprinkle water on those seeds every day.
That's cool. Have you ever heard, I think you and I might have talked about this. Have you ever heard of Joe Dispenza that has works with people to visualize their body healing itself?
We've talked about that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's an interesting concept. I heard somebody say that we still have not really understood the power of that our body takes instruction from the mind.
Right. Right.
And that we can actually instruct it to, like, we can actually see it reconstructing itself or healing itself, visualize
right.
that.
Right. We don't think, we have this idea in conventional Western biomedical science. We have this idea that the mental and emotional aspects of a person are somehow separate and different from their physical body, which is ludicrous, right? Because the mind inhabits the body, right? You have all of this neurochemical activity, the movement of charged particles back and forth across cell membranes. When you take a charged particle and you move it back and forth, it creates an electromagnetic wave, right? So you have this electromagnetic energy that is part of every living organism. But electromagnetic energy is not just an interesting byproduct of physiology. It's information, right? That's how we transmit signals, from cell phones, right? Is through electromagnetic waves. It carries information. So I feel like that's the original communication strategy when, billions of years ago, when cells were first learning how to work together to form multicellular organisms, they needed to communicate. And they started by using electromagnetic signals, right? That are naturally generated every time a charged particle moves across the cell membrane. And so I think of like the mind is all of this electromagnetic activity, right? And it is part and parcel of the body. And you think about something, you envision it, and it can make dramatic changes in body function, like immediately. Like think about biofeedback, right? You can close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, and you can actually bring your blood pressure down, right? or you can visualize something scary and you can bring your blood pressure back up, right? So the body chemistry responds immediately to the thoughts. So visualizing a healed body is a really important step in healing, right? So if you've got like a knee injury that you're trying to rehab, visualizing the knee working normally, using your kinesthetic imagination, pretending that you can feel the knee moving through its full range with full strength and no pain. That's an important step, and that helps make that knee function improve. Helps make that a reality. So again, when I'm working with people, I've got my hands on their body and I found like this restriction in their tissue and I'm trying to get things to release. I'll often prompt them, breathe into this area, bring your consciousness into this area, imagine your breath like this magical healing energy moving through your body. You bring their consciousness on board, participating in that process. The body then responds. It's amazing how much better things work when their consciousness is with you. Yeah.
It's like having a superpower healing computer behind the scenes, right?
We all have that super healing computer. We just need to learn how to use it better, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's great. I
Yeah.
think it's wonderful. It's so fun to see how many people are aware of conscious creation and bringing it in and applying it to the work that we do, and all the ways that it kind of reveals and shows itself in our lives. And you were saying, not only do you use it in your practice and with your clients, but you use it in your own life to have just an overall better quality of life, right?
Right. Not just in manifesting my dream for my business, but also my relationships with my wife and my children and my in-laws and my parents and my siblings and my neighbors. And, it's really powerful in our relationships.
So are you meditating daily?
Yeah. Yep. I get up in the morning, I come downstairs. I love my coffee. So I have a cup of coffee and I'll usually look at my day and review my plan and review my list of things that I'm trying to accomplish related to manifesting my business, right? I look at those steps along the path towards the vision becoming reality and review those and make some changes in my plan and consider, I'll use this time to do this thing. And I do that while I'm enjoying my cup of coffee. And then I'll usually plop down on the floor and I've got a handful of physical therapy, self-care exercises I do to keep my body feeling good. And I do those. They take me about 10, 15 minutes. And then I sit down in front of the fireplace on my little meditation cushion and I just breathe. Now, I usually set a timer on my phone. One of the weird nerdy things about me is I have an affinity for prime numbers. So I usually will set my timer for like 13 minutes or 17 minutes or 19 minutes. And I'll just sit and I'll meditate. And, my cat will come over and bite me and I'll just sit and breathe. And then I jump up and I'm ready to go make breakfast for the family. And the day is already a wonderful day.
That's great. What a great way to start your day too.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
It does. I think a lot of people rush into their day, or the first thing they do is look at their cell phone and all their emails and right? That's the first way they go into their day. And that morning time is your time dedicated to you and kind of starting your day off right, it sounds like.
I am a morning person. Like my body naturally wants to wake up at 5 a.m. And part of that is that I've trained myself to do that. Like when I was in my 20s, I certainly wasn't. But, I've gotten used to it and I like it and I look forward to it. And like I said, I sit down and I kind of review like my business plan and the things that I'm trying to manifest. And it gives me a hit of dopamine because I'm like, oh yeah, I got that done. I crossed that off the list. So I'm already giving my subconscious the message of success, right? First thing in the morning.
That's huge.
Yeah,
that is huge right there. Give your subconscious the message of success.
Yeah. That's just like you were saying, you have to already feel that you have it.
Yes.
In order to manifest it, you have to fake it till you make it, right?
Totally. Yeah. And it's something that it's hard. You have to train your brain to actually look for the good. You have to train your brain to look for the bits of success, right?
Right.
So easy to look at all the things we're not doing.
Sure. And it's easy to fall back into habituated thought patterns. And cynicism is one of the most kind of sneaky and insidious self sabotaging thought processes, because, you know, it's kind of like everybody, you know, it's like the popular humor, right, is cynicism. And it's so easy to fall back on that and use as an excuse to not continue to do the things that you have already proved to yourself are helping you manifest the life of your dreams, manifest your vision, consciously create what you want for yourself.
Absolutely. So what's, to kind of finish this out, what's one thing that you are like super happy about that you've manifested for yourself?
I'm finally, after 30 plus years, learning how to play my bass guitar.
Oh, wow.
I reached out to my son's piano teacher and I'm like, can I get lessons from you? And he's like, yeah. So I've been picking up my bass, just, you know, a few minutes. I don't do it every day. I should do it every day. He wants me to do it. I want to do it every day, but I haven't quite gotten into that habit of every day. But, you know, 3-4 times a week, I'm picking up my bass, practicing my scales. I'm doing the other exercises he's teaching me to do. I'm trying to learn how to sight read music. And, you know, it's little drips on that seed, right? Just keep them coming every day, every week, and it's gradually starting to get better. So, you know, I when I was growing up, when I was a kid, I had 2 major passions in my life, and one of them was music, and the other was martial arts. And I've reached a point in my life now where I'm back into doing both of those things and reminding myself how much I enjoy them. And it's yeah, it's great. I've always had that kind of creative side of my personality, and you know, and plus, you know, martial arts is a great thing to do with your kids. Kids love it.
No kidding. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was awesome.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much. What a joy and what an honor.
Yeah, it was great. And, you know, I hope the audience got some good juicy nuggets that they wrote down about what does it take.
Put a link to my website down in the description below.
Absolutely. I will put it in there. Do you want to tell them verbally too?
Yeah, it's williamplodc.com. It's my website, William, WILLIAM, Plo, PLEAU, DC for doctorofchiropractic.com.
And you are, the work that you do is amazing with people. It's just incredible. It helps with all kinds of things too, all kinds of aches and pains.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've studied many different methods, and this is the method that I've settled on, and I don't see myself going off and doing anything much different than this for the
What are some of
future.
the areas that you help with, the symptoms that you help with?
This is really good for chronic pain. So if you've got chronic musculoskeletal pain and you've kind of tried everything, for maybe it's neck or back pain, or maybe it's headaches or migraines, or maybe it's a shoulder or a knee or a hip, and it's just not responding well to physical therapy or chiropractic or massage, this can often be helpful for that, because that's usually an indication that there's a deeper visceral component that needs to be addressed. And then the other thing is visceral, like organ type complaints, things like acid reflux and constipation, or, you know, chronic pelvic inflammatory disease, or, you know, interstitial cystitis. These kinds of things respond really well to visceral manipulation.
Excellent. Well, I can attest to that because you've helped with both of those things for my husband, me, and my daughter. So thank you for all that you're doing, and thanks for making the time to be on today. I really appreciate it.
No, likewise. Thank you.